He drugged children, terrorized actresses, destroyed careers. These weren't just villains in films. They were real-life monsters behind the silver screen. In the golden age of Hollywood, power wasn't just glamorous, it was terrifying. Behind the dazzling lights and picture-perfect smiles lurked a darkness few dared to name. Some stars were controlled like marionettes, others were broken in silence. And the ones pulling the strings? They were untouchable. Today, we're not talking about misunderstood icons or troubled geniuses. We're exposing 5 of the most cold-blooded, manipulative, and feared figures of old Hollywood. From the ruthless studio head who medicated young girls into submission, to the gossip queen who could end a career with a headline, these were the real villains of the golden era. Welcome to Vintage Hollywood Files, where we uncover the beauty, the tragedy, and the shadows behind the spotlight. Before we begin, where are you watching from? And are you truly ready to see how far the glamour of fame can rot? Louis B. Mayer, the ruthless king of MGM. He built dreams on screen and nightmares off it. Louis B. Mayer, the mighty co-founder of MGM Studios, wasn't just the most powerful man in Hollywood during its golden era. He was its iron-fisted emperor. On camera, MGM was the studio of stars. Off camera, Mayer was orchestrating a brutal machine that turned hopefuls into puppets. He had an eye for talent, but only if he could own it, mold it, and control it. Judy Garland was just a teenager when Mayer turned her into a sensation. By putting her on a cocktail of amphetamines and sleeping pills to control her weight, her energy, and ultimately, her mind. And Garland wasn't the only one. Actors lived in fear of disappointing him. If Mayer saw weakness, he exploited it. If he saw defiance, he erased it. A single whisper from Mayer could blacklist someone overnight. His studio contracts were airtight, his surveillance constant, and his manipulation legendary. He told his stars when to date, when to marry, when to fake a smile, and when to disappear. He played father figure to many, calling MGM his family. But behind that mask of paternal warmth was a tyrant who weaponized affection. When Mickey Rooney or Elizabeth Taylor cried, he cried with them, then forced them back on set the next day. He understood that emotional control was more potent than physical punishment, and yet Mayer was untouchable. While his stars collapsed under pressure, he built a media fortress around himself. Gossip columnists like Hedda Hopper worked in tandem with his publicity machine to bury scandals, silence victims, and polish the MGM image to an impossible shine. When he was finally forced out of MGM in 1951, he didn't fall in disgrace. He retired in wealth and quiet, as if his reign of psychological warfare had never existed. Hollywood moved on, but the scars he left behind remained carved into some of its brightest stars. Drop one if you think Mayer was more than just a businessman. Was he the original Hollywood villain? Number 2, Alfred Hitchcock, the obsessive mastermind. He didn't just direct suspense, he lived it and forced others to live it too. Alfred Hitchcock, the master of suspense, was also the master of control, obsession, and psychological manipulation. Behind the genius who gave us Psycho, Vertigo, and The Birds was a man consumed not only by his art, but by his dangerous need to dominate, especially over women. Hitchcock didn't just cast actresses, he handpicked, sculpted, and possessed them. No case was more disturbing than his relationship with Tippi Hedren. When she was cast in The Birds, she was young, poised, and completely unaware that she had just entered a psychological labyrinth. Hitchcock controlled what she wore, how she spoke, and who she saw, but it didn't stop there. During the filming of The Birds, he subjected her to 5 days of real, live birds being thrown at her, scratching her face, nearly blinding her. It wasn't cinematic magic, it was punishment. When she rejected his advances, his retaliation was brutal. He threatened her career, sabotaged her roles, and ensured she was blacklisted from every major studio. "He ruined my career, but he couldn't ruin my soul," Hedren later said. But Hedren wasn't alone. Actresses like Ingrid Bergman and Grace Kelly were also part of Hitchcock's icy obsession with the perfect blonde. He idealized them, then twisted them into characters who were often punished, broken, or killed on screen. Many critics believe this wasn't storytelling, it was projection. On set, Hitchcock used silence as a weapon. He rarely praised, often humiliated. Crew members recounted his coldness, his cryptic instructions, and the way he treated actors like chess pieces in his personal game of control. Behind every camera movement was not just brilliance, but domination. And yet his films remain classics, celebrated, studied, revered, but at what cost? Welcome to Vintage Hollywood Files, where we uncover the beauty, the tragedy, and the shadows behind the spotlight. Drop 2 if you think Hitchcock's genius excuses his darkness, or if the two were one and the same. Number 3. Joan Crawford, the monster behind the mother. Mask. She was Hollywood royalty, an Oscar-winning beauty with razor-sharp cheekbones, dazzling charisma, and a signature voice that echoed power. But behind the satin gowns and velvet gloves was a woman whose darkness bled into the lives of those closest to her, especially her children. Joan Crawford built her career on strength, perfection, and relentless ambition. She rose from poverty, changed her name, reinvented her identity, and clawed her way to the top in a male-dominated industry. But the obsession with control that made her a star also made her a terrifying figure at home. Her daughter, Christina Crawford, shattered the illusion in her infamous memoir, Mommy Dearest, where she portrayed Joan as emotionally abusive, manipulative, and consumed by rage. The most haunting detail? The wire hangers. According to Christina, Joan's wrath was unpredictable. She would fly into violent rages over seemingly trivial infractions, like using the wrong kind of hanger, screaming, beating, berating. It wasn't strict parenting. It was trauma wrapped in Chanel No. 5. Hollywood insiders whispered for years about Crawford's volatility, her drinking, her need for absolute control, even over her adopted children, whom some claim she saw as trophies more than family. Servants and nannies corroborated Christina's stories. Others denied them. But the damage was done. Joan Crawford's legacy would forever be split in two: screen goddess and alleged monster. Ironically, the public image Joan so desperately curated of a selfless, devoted mother became the very thing that collapsed under scrutiny. In later years, as her career faded, she retreated into isolation, her once unshakable image haunted by the ghost of her own myth. Her funeral was sparsely attended. When asked why she hadn't cried, Christina simply said, "You can't miss what you never had." And yet, is it possible to be both the victim and the villain? Crawford herself had survived abandonment, abuse, and exploitation in her youth. Did she replicate the only patterns she knew? Or did the fame that saved her also corrupt her soul beyond recognition? Comment below if you think Joan was a product of her time or something darker entirely. This is a legacy still debated. What's your verdict? Number 4. Hedda Hopper, the gossip assassin. She didn't need a gun, she had a typewriter, and with it, she destroyed more careers than any studio executive ever could. Hedda Hopper was once a struggling actress, but when her acting career fizzled, she reinvented herself as a Hollywood gossip columnist, and that's when her true power began. With her venomous pen and 30 million readers hanging on every word, Hopper became judge, jury, and executioner in Tinseltown. Her column didn't just report rumors, it shaped reputations, ended livelihoods, and protected a toxic status quo. Stars who crossed her were blacklisted. Those who bowed to her were rewarded with glowing headlines. She wasn't just reporting on Hollywood, she was running it from the shadows. What made Hopper dangerous wasn't just the reach of her words, it was her moralistic crusade wrapped in hypocrisy. She championed family values and patriotism, while secretly collaborating with studios to silence victims, bury scandals, and reinforce oppressive norms. She was a key player in the Hollywood blacklist during the McCarthy era, accusing actors, directors, and writers of communist ties. Careers were destroyed overnight based on her allegations. People's lives crumbled, not because of court trials, but because of what Hedda wrote. Behind closed doors, insiders described her as vengeful, paranoid, and addicted to control. She wore ridiculous hats to distract, but her eyes missed nothing. She wasn't just observing Hollywood, she was manipulating it, pulling strings, creating stars, breaking others. One particularly chilling episode? When she found out that Charlie Chaplin had fathered a child out of wedlock with a much younger woman, she ran an unrelenting smear campaign until the public turned on him. His visa was revoked. He was effectively exiled from the country, all because Hedda deemed him immoral. And yet Hollywood still catered to her. Studios leaked gossip to stay on her good side. Publicists feared her. Celebrities faked friendships with her just to survive. Was she a necessary evil or just evil? Drop 9 in the comments if you think one pen should never hold that much power. Number 5. Judy Garland. The star who became a weapon. She was just 13 when they first gave her pills. One to keep her awake, one to help her sleep, one to suppress her appetite, one to keep her thin. Judy Garland, the girl who sang Over the Rainbow, was never truly allowed to grow up, and the world watched as she slowly unraveled. To MGM, Judy was not a child. She was an investment, a product. Studio executives, led by Louis B. Mayer himself, controlled every aspect of her life. What she ate, how she smiled, when she slept. They fat-shamed her in front of casts, wrapped her chest to make her appear younger, and flooded her with amphetamine-based diet pills, all to maintain the illusion of the perfect girl next door. As she grew older, the damage deepened. Garland became addicted to the very pills the studio had introduced her to. Her emotional breakdowns became public fodder. Marriages failed, roles disappeared, finances crumbled. But perhaps most tragically, she internalized it all. She began weaponizing her trauma, using her pain to manipulate those around her. Crew members and co-stars described her as brilliant and terrifying. She would show up late, break down mid-scene, then deliver a performance so haunting it left everyone speechless. And then she'd vanish again, caught in another spiral of self-destruction. Judy Garland wasn't just a victim. She embodied the entire cycle of Hollywood abuse. Discovered young, exploited, discarded, then mythologized. Her suffering was monetized, and in time, she too learned to wield suffering like a blade, cutting those closest to her when she felt cornered or forgotten. Her final years were a blur of desperation, underpaid performances, toxic relationships, and one last marriage that ended in chaos. She died at just 47, alone in a London bathroom, from an accidental barbiturate overdose. The very pills that once made her a star were now the reason she never made it to 50. But even in death, Hollywood kept using her. Her legacy sold records, books, films. Her daughter, Liza Minnelli, would grow up under the same spotlight, haunted by both the talent and the trauma Judy left behind. Was Judy Garland ever really free, or was she always just playing the role they gave her? Let us know your thoughts below. Behind every perfect frame of Golden Age, Hollywood was a story they didn't want you to hear. A child star fed pills like candy. A legendary director who crushed his leading ladies with psychological warfare. A mother worshipped on screen, feared behind closed doors. A gossip queen with more power than most producers. And a studio head who ruled with manipulation disguised as mentorship. These weren't just individuals, they were systems of abuse, of silence, of power gone unchecked. And the victims? Often too broken to speak up, or too afraid to lose what little they had left. But today, we're not afraid to look behind the curtain. Because history should not be sugar-coated. Fame should not be immune to accountability. Welcome to Vintage Hollywood Files, where we uncover the beauty, the tragedy, and the shadows behind the spotlight. If you found today's video eye-opening, leave a comment below. Which of these 5 shook you the most? And do you believe the industry has truly changed? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want more untold truths from Hollywood's hidden history. And as always, thank you for watching.